How will the university check my international student application? Let's talk about that. First of all, some universities have a list of schools from the Philippines, for example, that they only consider or recognize. Well, for most schools naman from the Philippines, they accept, except for some Russell Group universities or the top ranking universities that only recognize the top 4 or top 5 schools here in the Philippines, like Ateneo, UST, LaSalle, and a few more schools that they only recognize. And for those universities that only accept the universities I mentioned, no matter how high your grades are, if you're not from those universities, they will not accept you unless you have a master's degree, or maybe if your professional background is really intensive and really good. But don't worry, a lot of universities right now recognize most universities here in the Philippines. It's only a concern for postgrad applicants. But for bachelor's degree applicants or undergrad applicants, it's fine for most cases. But there are certain pathways that you need to take, which I will talk about in another video. Now, for most universities in the UK, we accept, like for example, University of Hertfordshire, we accept students from most universities from the Philippines. So that's already a check. And then the admissions will check your grades if you meet the entry requirements and if you were able to take a few subjects required for that program. For mid-rank universities like University of Hertfordshire, average would be like around 75 if you're applying for undergrad. That's very easy. But for the competitive ones, we would require around 85. Then for postgrad, maybe 2.5, 2.0, accepted na siya. Okay, but it depends. You have to check first. For the top ranking universities, of course, you can expect that they require higher grades. Okay, like 1.5, 1.2, and even if you have high grades, they will still prioritize students with higher grades than you. Okay, so now, let's say for example, you applied for a standard program like business, computer science, engineering, law. They call it standard courses. The admissions, for example, for Hertfordshire, our admissions can release an offer if you meet the criteria. And then if you don't have IELTS yet, you're lacking a few documents, as long as you meet the school background, the grade, the subjects, they can give you a conditional offer. Now, if you're applying for a different program like healthcare, like nursing, medicine, physiotherapy, or art related courses, they normally require, the admissions would transfer the application or forward the application to the tutor or the faculty. The admissions cannot just easily give you an offer based on the criteria because it has to be assessed by the faculty. Then they will invite you for an interview. And then if it's an art related course, of course, they would require a portfolio and they have to check it first. So again, for other courses, admissions can easily give you an offer, but for the more competitive ones, it will be assessed by the tutors. So it may take longer compared to the other courses. Now, once you have the offer, let's say a conditional offer, it means that there are still some conditions like IELTS or English test, diploma for those who are still studying and just waiting for them to graduate, and a few more documents. All you have to do is just, of course, submit those. And once you submit everything, you will receive an unconditional offer. Once you have an unconditional offer, then of course you have to accept the offer and pay the deposit. For most universities, they will require you to pay a deposit and the amount will depend per university. I also discussed that one in my other video. Now, if you already have your unconditional offer and you've paid your deposit, next step would be your CAS. But of course, the CAS release will depend on the university, whether they will process your CAS without your financial document, while the others would check your financial document first before they'll give you your CAS. But don't worry, that same financial document is also what you need in your visa application. It's actually better because it has been checked by the university, which means that you'll have a higher chance of meeting the requirement of the government. So basically, that's the process. I just wanted to talk about this because I've read a lot of messages from students asking for their CAS before they got an unconditional offer or before they paid their deposit. This will also serve as your guide for you to know if you are on the right path. But then again, every university has their own ways, their own policy. What I've discussed are just the things I knew based on my experience and based on the universities I've encountered, and of course, based on the University of Hertfordshire, where I'm currently working at as an in country representative here in the Philippines. So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me, message me, or comment down below. I'd be happy to help you out. Follow for more.